Just when we thought the lowly Carolina Panthers could pull the upset, a Mahomesian effort lifts the Chiefs to 10-1. Just what's the reaction to yet another Chiefs win by the skin of their teeth?
Green Bay and the 49ers. No Brock Purdy, and it showed. Green Bay dominates. The 49ers left looking for answers.
It would have been nice, so nice, had my Colts pulled off a miracle. But alas, at least Tennessee showed up and did half our work for us. Is it time to sound the alarm bells on Houston?
You know, we give Arizona their flowers. All they've got to do is beat the Seahawks. But Gino and the boys had another idea, and now the NFC West is now a jumbled mess.
Week 12, we thought it was going to be a little bit of a boring week, but sure enough, just as much not resolved another week into the season. Sunday Scaries with Buccs McGee. We're wrapping up all the chaos.
Week 12. Starting out nice, loving life right now. Some things crystal clear, other things like the NFC West, a hot jumbled mess. We thought we had it all figured out, but yet again, Nutmeg, not so much. How we doing, sir?
Well, aside from the fact that I will not be celebrating a victory Monday, I suppose I'm okay. But
You know, you
at least half the show will enjoy that feeling. But I have to ask Bucks McGee, did you have to do Tommy Cutlets like that?
after the bye, sometimes you wake up and you're like, it's time. And unfortunately, Tommy Cutlets was the victim. But we know the Jets are a horribly run organization, and it's a nice way to start off the bye. Can't complain.
New York football is not exactly in the kindest of spirits right now.
Nope. They'll be the hot spot of the draft in 2025, but today, not so much.
You imagine if the top three picks in the draft were the Jets, the Giants, and the Patriots?
Oh,
Football does not exist in the Northeast.
oh man. I wonder if it's ever come close to happening, but hey, there's always a first, and hey, it'll be great to see if it does.
So one of the big storylines of the week leading up to these games involved this game because the Giants, out of seemingly the blue, clear blue sky, decided that it was time for Danny Dimes to move on and seek other employment. I don't know if this was necessarily the right week to do it, or any week was the right one to do it before the season's over.
Just should have finished off the season. Like, I know he asked for his release. I know Jones says, hey, I want to go, want to move on. If I'm the Giants, I'm like, no, we finish off the year, then we'll do it then. But they give him his release as he asked, and Tommy Cutlets starts. He was a bit of a spark plug for him last year, but not today. And there's a lot of issues with this team, and it's just going to get worse.
Heck of a gift for your Bucks. A nice quarterback making their first start of the season. Not a lot of starts before that to kind of get Tampa back on the right side of the track, so to speak.
Oh man, that's a quick fixer right there. You need to jumpstart your team. Have them play the Giants or the Jets. Just go on in. But I won't lie. I'll take any win I can. I think it was great. Baker looked, as he has all seasons, looked great. It was nice to see Evans out there. I think he finished with about 60-something yards. Didn't really force the issue with them, slowly getting them back in the game. But again, my boy, Bucky Irving, man, the boy is a phenom. Big game. The run game has really, really opened up this season. And I know it was the Giants, but you take the victories how you can. We pretty much, if you look statistically, have one of the easiest schedules going on for the rest of the year. So we've got to capitalize. And if we can go on a run like we did last year, playoffs aren't out of the question.
As we say, beat the teams you're supposed to beat.
That's all you can do.
And the other side of that is the you said last week 11 was your bye. Sometimes the bye feels like a win. Well, it must feel extra nice to get a win on the week where two of your division rivals have a bye.
It's it's nice to have to just sit there and just basically concentrate on yourself for the most part. Atlanta's been kind of leaky the last couple weeks. The Saints are the Saints. They do Saint things. We see how they're going about. So it's one of those things where we kind of dug ourselves a hole early. 2 losses against Atlanta. So now we sit here and say, okay, just got to finish up strong. So if you can finish with a winning record, the way Atlanta's playing, we got a shot.
So speaking of leaky boats, as far as divisions are concerned, we'll go into the NFC West.
Jeez, man.
I was kind of hoping that after this week something would be a little more clear and things would start to take shape. I wasn't necessarily expecting them to take shape like they did. We'll start with this game that's currently underway. The Rams, and they're not looking very good against the Eagles. They just missed a field goal to try and tighten up the deficit. But I feel like this was an opportunity because the Eagles, yeah, they've been playing better of late, but they're a very inconsistent team. I felt like this was an opportunity at home in prime time to continue their run back towards the top, and they obviously didn't get the memo for that one.
No, and then when Saquon comes to your house, yeah, exactly. This seems like it's the Saquon revenge tour this year. After the disrespect by the Giants. So he's basically every week, whatever team they're facing, he's taking it out on them. And yet again tonight, as you've seen, he should be a leader for MVP. He's unbelievable. You can't take anything away from Saquon, and the Rams' run defense has disappeared. I don't know what's going on, but you got to give them their flowers. Philly's handling business tonight.
Speaking of disrespect against Saquon, they showed a stat in the pregame show that what was the number? I think Saquon has 11 drives leading up to the goal line, and Jalen Hurts has 7 touchdowns from the goal line. So if they would just like drop this tush push fiasco or QB sneak as it used to be called, for people that are older than 3 years old, if they would just quit this tush push situation, Saquon might have 20 touchdowns right now.
Oh yeah, he'd be breaking records on all over the place. But this is how Philly runs the offense. So Saquon does the heavy pushing, and Hurts, does his little, 1.5 yard thing, and they move on. So it's working right now. They're in full control of, the NFC East, and like I said, Saquon's taking the league and giving them notice, and teams have got to understand, got to stop Saquon to stop the Eagles.
Yeah, they we'll get to it later in the show, but they definitely got a bit of a gift as far as the ease of this NFC East is concerned. And gift is the operative word in this context. If you know, you know. So we'll get into the other NFC West games in a moment, but based on what happened this week with their opponent, with their divisional foes, and what's happened in this game against the Eagles, are the Rams done? Right? Can you stick a fork in the Rams?
I don't want to say done, but if you want to say life support, I'd give you that. It's tough in this division because last week we talked about that, and we said Seattle was done. We felt Seattle was basically not a non-factor, and the next thing they do what they do this week, and now they're leading the division in theory. So it's like I don't know if anyone's done. They're still in arm's reach of the division, so I'm
Mhm.
not going to say they're done, but now it's slowly you kind of can see that the Niners are falling off even more. So now
Yeah.
is this a three-team race? Now you have to ask yourself. I think next week really answers that question.
It's almost like not back in the day when the NFC South first started, and then I want to say the AFC South also had a period of time, I think in the Andrew Luck era, where every single year there was a different division winner. That's kind of what the NFC West is like this year, week to week. We have a different leader every single week because they're so inconsistent, they're so incomplete, they've got injuries left and right. As each week plays out, it's just like the standings flip around, do a dipsy do flipperoo.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like you don't know. Like right now, the way we're looking at it, it's Seattle, Arizona. Let's say just for sake here, Rams, the Niners.
Yeah,
Now next week, who knows what happens? Who flip flops? So it's going to be a week by week situation. Or I think what's going to happen is probably the last 3 to 4 weeks, one of these teams is going to catch fire, and maybe they
mm,
pull out the division. That could be how this ends.
yeah. Who's ever hot last, who's ever
Yeah,
hot latest, I should say, will win the division. Um,
exactly.
Well, those Niners, I don't think you're speaking out of turn because they have done horribly against their divisional opponents. So I don't think we will be looking at a standing on Monday and not see them in last place. But of course, the story out of this one is I can't really say it should be a surprise they lost to Packers because even if Purdy was healthy, we go over this every week. It seems like how much they struggle, and waiting for everyone to be healthy, and then finally they're all healthy and they still struggle. But so even without Purdy, I can't necessarily say that I'm surprised on this. I'm just a little like feeling icky looking at the scoreboard, seeing how bad it really was.
And it could have been a lot worse. There were a couple drops by receivers for Green Bay. Like there was that Watson, perfect pass from Love, what in the third quarter, which was
Mm,
basically a touchdown. All he had to do was catch it. In case of the oopsies there. So it could have been a whole lot worse. But Green Bay came out and pounded the ball. Again, Josh Jacobs, great game. Love was solid. Love looked good. So if this team can just clean up some things, Green Bay could be a serious contender.
yeah, against the Niners defense, that I mean, maybe they were just missing Nick Bosa, but for the most part, that defense hadn't been the problem this season. So to get 38 hung on them with or without Nick Bosa definitely has got to sting a little bit.
Oh no, it definitely does. But we've always talked about it. After a while, if your defense gets hung out to dry enough, it's going to spring leaks, and that's what's happened. The offense has been inconsistent, and now the defense is probably starting to tire out a bit. This team with the weapons. Now, mind you, Purdy wasn't there, but you still had CMC. You still had your, full complement receiver wise, except for Ayuk. So they should have been solid enough to put up more of a fight than they did.
Yeah, and CMC, I mean, he didn't have a big effect of this. I don't know whether you want to credit the Packers defense or just be like, listen, that's all you had to defend. You just you just bulk up the line of scrimmage and try to get this Brandon Allen character to beat you, which obviously probably wasn't going to happen. So I don't know how much credit you want to give the Packers defense for shutting down CMC when they really didn't have to guard anyone else.
No, hey, it wasn't the Packers' fault that this week Purdy's hurt and they're playing the Niners. They played it perfectly. They said, all right, we'll try to shut down CMC, see if we can get this Allen guy to throw the ball around and see what he can do. And that was the formula, and it worked.
I have a big question to ask, but we'll take a brief side trip to recognize craft beer reviews. Hop on, let's go Denver. We are not discussing this game tonight in this show. However, it should be worth noting that Bo Nix continues his challenge to Jaden Daniels for Rookie of the Year.
Bo Nix, man, give the guy credit. We talked about him. We said this kid could be good. He could be one of those surprise quarterbacks of the year. And Denver 7-5 and making noise. So yeah, props to Denver.
Yeah, we were well, at the end of the year we might have to do a little look back to our pick'ems because I don't think we were very kind to Denver.
Oh no, we weren't. I know for sure we weren't. We were rough. And like I said, I'll eat crow when it's necessary. And Denver has proven us wrong, and they're playing great. They're going to be one of those teams vying for a wild card.
Undersung candidate for offensive player of the year, but mind you, in Cortland Sutton. He's been he's been a almost unstoppable. There was that one game where he just didn't get thrown to at all. I don't know what happened, but for the most part, Cortland Sutton's been very, very good with Bo Nix throwing to him.
And I'm surprised because I honestly figured that Sutton would have been a guy that just would have fell off, and then we would have heard in the offseason they would have shopped him and just totally torn this thing down. But Sutton has been a great compliment to Nix, and they're playing well. You got to give them credit.
To wrap up our discussion on the Niners, I have to ask: is we have kind of teased this a few times this year, as far as the window for their Super Bowl aspirations getting more closed and more closed as we go along. Is this it? Is this it? Is this it for the Niners? Is there a window at? I can't even say a window at a dynasty. Is there a window just for one at this point completely closed?
The way you can't say it because there's still in theory they still have a chance for the division. Though it be minute, they would have to go on a great run, but they're not out of it. But I think at this point, the only way the Niners can do anything is they have to win the division.
But they're gonna get it. Even if they were to win the division, they're gonna come in, and is Guile just gonna carry them to a playoff win, or are they just gonna get annihilated? They're gonna be like the NFC South usually is.
They might eke out a win in the first round, depending what the draw is. They have talent. It's just I don't know what's happened here. I just don't know what's happened. It's like completely fallen apart. Yes, there's been injuries and such, but they still have enough parts to be competitive. So until they're out of it for the division, you still got to give them somewhat of a puncher's chance. A slim one, but you still have to give them the shot.
They're almost like they're got maybe some pixie dust off the Chiefs, and maybe they like dog it for the remainder of the season, and all of a sudden they turn it on in the playoffs because they remember what they're playing for. We got in and we looked awful, but hey, we're 0-0. It's the playoffs.
Well, we know how the playoffs work. As long as you can get into the dance, and once you get in, anything can happen.
What would be your gut? What would be your gut intuition as far as something actually happening? Are they barking up the wrong tree here, or maybe or are we selling them short, and experience will carry out?
I don't know if they can get hot enough. I think it's a situation where this division just flip flops, and I don't think they have enough. I don't like how they're playing now, especially defensively.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but I do think it's the end. I do think the window's closed on this, and I do think some things are going to change, and they will. Debo's probably not going to be there next year. They've got to pay Purdy his money, so there's going to be a lot of change in that organization next year. So I think this, as the team is constituted today, I think this is the end of the run for this iteration of the Niners.
Yeah, and Shanahan might be very well on the hot seat if he's not already.
I think he's bought himself some time, but I do think the flame has been slightly lit. They would need to really bounce back next year.
It's a pilot light.
It's a pilot. Exactly. It would take forever to light a campfire, but let it sit there a while. It might do something.
So, of course, the other half of this division is the result of who's now in first place. And the way it's playing out, these are the two teams that were vying for first place when we went into the week. So I guess really nothing changed. The big thing to note in this one, of course, is Arizona has been brought back down to earth because not only did they lose, which I mean, honestly, Cardinals Seahawks, I kind of would say like flip a coin anyway. Like maybe the Cardinals might have a little bit more potent offense, but the Seahawks obviously have a bit more experience. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, it was like a flip a coin type of situation. But I wasn't expecting the Cardinals to just come in and barely perform in this one.
You got to give the Seahawks defense credit. They played hard, they were physical, and it just seemed like they wanted it a little more.
Mm-hmm.
They dug down. Their defense just played hard. And at the end of the day, Geno made throws that he needed to make, and Kyler missed some throws. There was a throw to, McBride in the end zone that he totally sailed, and there were a couple other throws that just seemed off. So the Cardinals just didn't seem to click today, and the Seahawks did enough to win.
Was there a new Call of Duty that came out?
No new patch or anything. They were they were after Kyler all game. He took a couple shots in the game, but like I said, he had a couple throws that he should have made and didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And Geno, that Geno magic where he, pulls something out every once in a while, and it showed up today.
So going forward, do we look at the Cardinals saying maybe we are a little ahead on the party, a little ahead on the Redbird party, or is this because they had a little streak of consistency lately, but
Mm-hmm.
earlier in the season it was win loss win loss win loss total roller coaster. So is this the reality check that we kind of thought maybe would come, or is this just back to usual Cardinals, and next week they'll hang 40 on somebody?
They've been playing well the last couple of weeks, so I don't want to say I'll give them a pass, but I got to see what happens next week. Got to see how they bounce back. Like you said, they could bounce back, hang 40, 45 on another team, and then, we're like, oh, just a hiccup, they're back. That's just how this division is. That's how these teams are. Next week the Hawks could totally, screw the pooch and put up a goose egg and not do anything. So that's how they've all played. So I can't really. There's no way to gauge it. You just got to this. I guess with these teams, you got to take it week by week, and whoever gets hot at the end, like we said, is going to be the team.
Or for all even to all this, they could both lose. The Rams and the Niners pull a victory out, and one of them is in first place, where we have a four-way tie of mediocrity.
You know what? Would surprise me. Would not surprise me. And somehow, some way, the Niners fall into first place by the skin of their teeth, and there you go.
Oh, sorry, subpar mediocrity, because at that point they'd all be under 500 for sure.
Hey man, sometimes 8 and 9 get you where you got to go. I guess you hope it's 8 and 9 if you're going to be sub, because if it's like 7 and 10, then that's just horrible. That's just
yeah.
I don't even call me a division winner at that point. No.
Another black eye for the 17-game schedule, as if it needed another one.
Yeah, there you go. But we want to go to 18, right, Mr. Goodell?
Yeah, we'll be playing till April Fool's Day.
I wouldn't mind it too much, but hey, I'm a sucker.
Next up, they gave us a little hope. I can't say the Carolina Panthers. I can't say I was expecting them to pull that out, especially giving, what was it, a minute 46 back to Patrick. But I was still hopeful. I was hopeful that maybe, and I know exactly what was going through your head at the end of this game, because you have repeatedly decried teams like, don't let Patrick run out and get a little 13, 15, 17-yard first down where he scampers out around everyone. You've said it at least 6 or 7 times randomly throughout the season. And what happened to secure the Chiefs setting up the victory. Patrick Mahomes sneaks out, runs all the way around up the sideline, and sure enough, we are in field goal range. It didn't even matter what else they did to to get closer.
I know Carolina, they want to be overachievers, right? Now, when Patrick pulls this play off, it's usually like, it's a first down, maybe 12, 13 yards, like you say. No, Patrick busts out a 33-yard run. And I'm like, really? Are you serious? You guys do all this hard work, and lo and behold, it's the good old let Patrick roll out and run for the first down and then some, and there it is. Yeah. So yeah, the explicits that rang through my house as I watched this, because I was sitting here going, "Oh man, 2 weeks in a row, it's begun." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Carolina learned how to play some ball. Bryce Young is looking like a real quarterback, like a real boy, Pinocchio style. Go, Coach Canales.
Boy.
I'm a real quarterback now." Adam Thielen sightings on the field. I'm like, oh my Lord, this is gonna happen. Nope, y'all let good old Patrick scramble, and there it is. It is what it is, man. Kansas City yet again not looking great. Noah Gray is the new number one option in Kansas City. I don't get it. I don't know how, but it is what it is. Chiefs 10-1 survived, and that's all they're gonna do. They're surviving. They're just primed for a first round bounce. I'm not scared of them. I'm not. Like, you saw how they played. You allowed that defense has fallen. Let's be real. You let Carolina come back, score the 2-point conversion. When if this was the beginning of the season, that defense probably tightens up and we're not having this conversation.
Yeah.
So what's going on where this is all leaking all of a sudden?
No, Carolina probably would never have been in position to even score and get the 2-point conversion because the game probably would have been out of hand by that point, even with the Kansas City offense not really being its usual self.
Yeah, it probably would have been like a 28-3 game. That's what it probably would have been at best. So I got to give Carolina credit. No one would have given them a chance to be that close at all. So I give them credit. They're starting to kind of figure things out a bit. They're still a long way from where they need to be. So like you said earlier, beat the teams you're supposed to beat, but you should actually beat them and not just slip by.
By something a little bit more convincing than this, because the Panthers have been a punchline this year. They've been the probably the team that survivor pools have ridden against the most throughout the season. Like there's no barely getting by a field goal after you had a 8-9 point lead and you let them storm back on you. And like you said, Bryce Young looked like a real quarterback. There's I don't. It's the NFL. I don't want to say there's no excuse for it, but realistically, there's no excuse for it. You're the 2-time defending champs, and this team is a perpetual contender for the number one pick.
Yeah, exactly. So what's going on? Like, I don't think all of a sudden Carolina woke up with the near blueprint to upset the Chiefs. I don't think they did. And there's holes on this roster at certain positions, but they came together and they played well. So we've said before about moral victories. For Carolina, they're allowed to have one. You took the champs to the brink. Now you can build on it a bit more. But in my opinion, the Chiefs should have lost today. The Chiefs should have lost. I think if they don't allow Patrick that rollout, we could be having another conversation.
And to your point on Noah Gray, is this an intentional thing? Is it just the Kelsey effect and using him as a decoy, or is he really like lost several steps? Like, I didn't even say lost a step, lost several steps.
I don't know. It's hard to gauge because even with the Kelsey effect, he still would get 8-9 catches, close to 100 yards. Like there'd still be production there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, D Hop was, you know, had an all right game. I don't know what his stats were, but it was, you know, I don't think he was overpowering. Anything on the clicker is screaming Noah Gray, Noah Gray. So anyone in fantasy who had Noah Gray, there you go. You freaking hit the jackpot. So I don't know if, like you said, you know, teams are saying, okay, we got to take care of Kelsey, we got to take care of D Hop. Noah Gray is the beneficiary. Now, still, you would think someone would be able to cover him and still kind of keep him at bay. I don't think he's got breakaway speed and he's got an elite catch radius or anything like that. But the last 2 games, the guy's profited.
Yeah, especially you know, Hopkins came in and, you know, like you said, I mean, he wasn't super impressive, but it still was probably his best game as a Chief. So
Yeah,
it's not like there was a game plan out there where Noah Gray was the one you couldn't let beat you.
yeah. You know, teams didn't sit there and said, okay, this week we're planning for Noah Gray. You know, a phenomenal phenom tight end, the future Travis Kelsey. You know, none of that was said. So, but
That's the reason he's a backup.
you know, he's become a quality target. And if this continues, I don't know if it's one of those things where all of a sudden, you know, another 2 weeks that Travis is quiet, then all of a sudden there's the explosion and then the Chiefs become an offensive juggernaut again. I don't think that's going to happen. It just seems that the way that Carolina played them, I guess Noah Gray was the option.
what was what was kind of the key for the Carolina defense? And was it just a matter of this is just same old Kansas City offense? They struggle to get going and kind of have to live with whatever presents itself, or did Carolina actually do something right in keeping them somewhat contained for most of this?
I think Carolina played solid defense. Yeah, it seemed like, you know, they were able to keep, you know, the explosive plays to a minimal, except the end there. And it was just they played solid. You know, I guess they played out of their minds. I guess you could say that they were up for the challenge and nearly pulled off the impossible.
The solace I take is I don't think I heard Ian Eagle refer to the Mahomesian run as magical.
Thank God. Yeah.
Someone still has a soul in the broadcast booth.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. I'm sure Chris Collinsworth was sitting there watching that game going, magical. So, you know, like the takeaway from this game is moral victory for the Panthers. Played well. Could have won it. Learn from your mistakes. Chiefs, you got lucky. It's a shaky 10-1 right now.
Yeah, we'll see how the stretch run plays out with Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Houston. Well, Houston at this point, I don't know, but at least the other two, maybe they'll take Kansas City down for a couple more
That's
losses.
it. Kansas City's got to be careful because if they get a loss, Buffalo's right there. Buffalo owns the tiebreaker.
Yeah, things could spiral. Things could spiral quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Things that almost spiraled. The Vikings could have had a bad loss here. They had a nice lead on Chicago. They let it get away, and they were able to maintain and win in overtime. But that could have been a bad one. Chicago's not been great lately.
Chicago can't buy a win, man. I tell you.
That's true.
You know,
you had the Jaden Daniels Hail Mary. You had last week, and then you got this now.
you know, blocked kick this week.
Blocked kick.
You know, you can't fault Caleb Williams. He's playing well. I don't know, man. It's just a string of bad luck. Like one thing happens differently in those games, and then they're not 4-7. You know, they're in the thick of it. So it's not like they're a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. They're a solid team. Offensively, they're getting better week by week. It's just bad luck.
Yeah, like you said, things happen differently. They could be leading the wild card picture.
Yeah, they very well could be. It's bad luck. So now
with
Yeah,
tiebreakers over their divisional opponents, aside from the Lions, of course.
yeah. So if this continues, then you sit there and say, okay, what needs to change going into next season?
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, I think it's the head coach. I think you need somebody else. I think Mr. Flus there needs to go and get somebody in there who can, really tap into what Caleb can do and the abilities of this offense. We'll see what happens, but yeah, it's just another heartbreaker. The Vikings got lucky; they've got to clean some things up. You've got a lead. You can't let it go. You're starting the second half of this season. You can't do that because especially in the division you're in, one game could mean the end. And right now, Detroit is the class. So at this point, you're playing for the fifth, sixth seed.
Yeah, I think Eberflus bought him this year based on the little run they had last year, but I think he's used up his 9 lives now.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is they're going to say thank you for contributing. We've grown, blah blah blah. Send him on his merry way, and then they bring somebody else in.
Yeah, and people are kind of forgetting Minnesota a little bit because they obviously had the undefeated start to the season. They looked phenomenal. Then they've kind of come back to earth a little bit, but they're still very much in this, and they're doing this in other ways besides Jettis. They put up a stat ahead of the Sunday Nighter where they showed what Hawkinson did in this game, what Addison did in this game, had a huge performance. What Aaron Jones did on the ground, I think he's in the top 5 in rushing this year. So Minnesota is still having. It's not as loud as it was early in the season, but they're still having a very effective season, and they could be dangerous in the postseason.
No, definitely. That's what you need. You need a well-rounded offense. You need it to come from more than just one source. And by Hawkinson's coming back from the injury, Jones, running the ball. That's what you need. You need Darnold to be able to go to other guys because they're going to double Jay Jettas, and it's going to be okay. So where's the offense going to come from? Sam can't throw it and catch it himself. So
Yes,
so
you throw it high enough, you've got enough time to run underneath it.
oh yeah, and I'm sure he's putting up 4.2, 4.3 speed. And they've got to be able to go to other sources, and they definitely were able to, but the defense gave up some points, and they were able to survive. This defense is going to have to shore up because as you get closer and closer, playoff time, you can't do that.
Yeah, and obviously it can't really make the argument now because Josh Jacobs blew up, but up to that point, I mean, you don't think Green Bay was having maybe second doubts about letting Aaron Jones walk the way he's played for Minnesota? I mean,
I don't think so. I think they're happy with Jacobs. And I think it was a situation where they felt, all right, Jones has done his time. It's time to see what he can do elsewhere. So it's gonna be health wise for the Vikings. They got to keep those guys healthy, and that defense has to figure it out and stop teams from scoring, giving up 10-point leads, 10, 15-point leads. You can't do it.
well, here's another team that needs to figure things out. And as much as I never want to see the Tennessee Titans in the win column, it did bring a joy to my eye to see the Texans choke yet another game. I think we're up to definitely 3, maybe even 4 or 5, but certainly 3, at least in recent memory this season, where the Texans just cannot close out a game. And this brings up the maturity arguments. This brings up C.J. Stroud's sophomore regression. This team there is something wrong with them.
I have no idea. Offensively they looked strong today. I was like, all right, they seem to be getting things going. Just I don't know, man. You let the Titans give you an L, and then it's like, and we talked about the Texans. We felt they were going to be that team that was going to take that next step and could could challenge the Chiefs, and now it's like, all right, you guys, are you guys turning into the next version of the Jaguars? All this talent and not enough. It's still early, but
Yeah.
it's sophomore slump and such. For CJ played solid. I don't think he's slumping. I just think teams are kind of figuring out what to do. This defense is kind of leaky on some sections, but here's the thing: they should finish off with a winning record. Let's say they finish off, get bounced in the first round or something like that.
Mhm.
If they'll go into year 3 with high expectations again because there's talent on this team. There's no doubt there's talent. If they pull the same thing next year, then you can make a case and say, okay, you got Jagitis,
Jagsitis.
all the talent and can't do anything with it.
Yeah, that's an interesting hypothetical because when we looked at the Jags getting to that point, they at least had built a lot of it internally. They acquired a lot of talent through the draft. They kind of picked up free agents that nobody else wanted, and they kind of built a scrappy, rough and tumble type of team, and then it all fell apart. The Texans, they bought early on the returns from Stroud as a rookie and D'Amico Ryan's culture change on the organization, and a defense that was a little bit undersung off of Lovie Smith.
Mm-hmm.
But they, because of all these early returns, they went in heavy and spent money. Mixon, Diggs, they went after it. Like they opened up the pocketbook and went after it, like almost Yankee style, New York Yankee style. So like if they were to follow, I'll coin your term, Jagsitis. Like how much better or worse does it look than the path that the Jags have previously set of this kind of collapse?
I don't think the way they went about it was bad. They needed a run game. Let's be honest. Pierce wasn't really the answer last year. So you get Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's been great for them. Joe
Mm-hmm.
Mixon, you honestly could say has been a catalyst for that offense. Diggs was doing some things before he got hurt. So in that point, that doesn't bother me spending the money because the way that the Texans came into this season, it was okay. They just need a piece or two. They just need a piece or two, and then this is going to just enhance what CJ can do. So that's what you have to do. That's the way this league is built. If you can get a piece, there you go. Spend the money. Don't be the Cowboys and dilly dally and then end up with absolutely nothing. You don't want to do that. So I don't think it was bad. Plus, they built stuff through the draft. Don't forget they got Will Anderson in that draft with C.J. Stroud that year. A couple years ago too. So they've built pieces through the draft as well. It's just that they're spending money, and it's weird. Sophomore slump it may be, and sometimes you got to get your teeth kicked in. So maybe this is the situation where they learn a little bit and then come back stronger next year. But right now they're still in the hunt. It's not like they're dead in the water, but they're going through some pains.
So you don't think it's a tougher pill to swallow when the team fails from going on a free agents frenzy versus when they fail just from a genuine internal build?
I don't think so because the pieces that you picked up performed. I could see
Yeah.
if you picked up these pieces and Mixon did nothing, and Diggs was just screaming and yelling, and he was healthy
Temper
scratches and stuff
tantrum.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
these guys performed, and Mixon was nicked up during the season, and Diggs is out now, so it's those pieces were providing a return.
Can I and not and the one that wasn't an acquisition, but Nico Collins, he's back now, but he missed a good chunk of the season as well. So
Mm-hmm.
can I read between the lines and say you're giving them a pass because of injuries?
I'd say injuries are a part of it. It's definitely if they had been healthy throughout the whole year, could be they could be 2 games better than they are now. I could see that, but it's sophomore slump. But with the talent that they had and everything, most of us were confident saying, okay, this could be the team that dethrones the Chiefs. Now, if they were healthy, very well could be. Like I said, could be a 2-game swing.
Hmm. I guess we were just hoping it would be this year to derail the chance for a three-peat, but maybe we'll have to just stomach the three-peat and hope for next
What
year.
do you mean stomach the 3P? We got Superman Josh. I got Jared Goff. I got plenty of guys. It's not over. I almost had Bryce Young for a day. Don't
I don't need no stinking Texans. I almost had Bryce Young for a day.
I still got plenty of guys. I still got plenty of guys in the chamber. It's not over yet. Don't give up hope, Nutmeg. Don't you give up hope.
It's such a fun experience rooting for the evil empire to crumble.
Rooting for the field. You root for the field.
That I wonder what actually I do wonder what the odds were on that as far as taking the Chiefs to win or taking the field. You can have everyone else and I'll take the Chiefs.
Dang it. $5 probably would have bought me something, man. Oh, whatever, man. I still got hope. Still got hope.
So the final game we will discuss is the Dallas Cowboys. Why did
Jeez.
they seem to wait 12 weeks before they remembered they were a professional football team and this is what they're supposed to do on Sundays?
They got lucky. Don't even, man. This game was
I,
just.
I was building to it. I was building to it.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue, Carpenter. Carpenter,
No,
Nutmeg.
no,
Continue
no.
to build.
I wanted to get your thoughts on three-quarters of this game first before I go into the disaster that was the ending.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. I don't know. Like I don't know. I guess the Cowboys needed a signature win this year, so I guess this is it. I don't know. This changes nothing, I believe, in America's thought of the Cowboys at all. They, Washington, maybe like the Texans, is kind of slowly coming down the earth a little bit. The
Mm,
hot, that they started out hot and they were America's favorite. We all fell in love and drank the Kool-Aid and we're like, "Ooh, Washington, this is gonna be the team." We were sitting here saying, "Oh, it's gonna be Washington versus Philly for the division. This is it. It's going down." And however many weeks ago that was, it's changed.
that game may have derailed, like maybe that shook Washington's psyche and that derailed them because ever since then it's been nothing but bad. It hasn't looked like the same Washington team.
I think it was a situation where there were, and Daniels has played great this year. Got to give him credit. There's now enough film on him, and you kind of see, and Washington's talented. I'm not saying Washington, is devoid of talent or anything like that, but it's okay. What is their game plan? They can somewhat run the ball a bit. Uh, Keep Jalen in the pocket, though he can make pretty much all the throws. Their defense was rough to begin with, had a little stretch where we were like, "Oh, this defense is coming along. Defense is coming along." And now they've kind of faltered back into that. Yeah, they're really not that good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where this offense can't carry this team, can't carry the deficiencies of that defense right now. They'll put up 20 something points, but they'll give up 30 something points.
Yeah. Yeah, just when we thought the defense had figured it out and they were competent, and like you said, it's right back to the sieve that they once were.
Yeah, but it's a building block. That's why you brought Dan Quinn in and stuff. This is a whole new era in Washington football. So I don't think you don't want to lose, especially to the Cowboys, but you look at what you've got done so far this year and you continue to build.
Let's go. Let's take it back to those Cowboys because I know you so love to discuss them. Just when we thought that they were gonna win this going away, they give the ball back, they get a field goal. Washington's got the ball again, 86-yard out route miracle. Scary Terry splits two guys in half and takes it to the house, and even at that point, it's like, here they are, same old Cowboys. What happens? The kicker comes out, and I don't know what a bad snap, bad hold, whatever it was. Kick goes awry, and the Cowboys are going to maybe escape again.
Washington has had the worst special teams in the last like 3 weeks. It's been ridiculous. And they just jinxed the poor guy. Like, I felt so bad for him. It felt like it was rushed, and the hold was bad. The guy went to kick it and just shanked the heck out of it. I thought he was going to cry, like, someone stole his lunch money. It was just a whole bad situation. Just bad. Just bad. Just bad. I don't know, man. It is what it is. I guess sometimes you have to have one of these losses to kind of fit, say, all right, got to take it to the woodshed, got to move on. But yeah, you don't want to lose that way.
Yeah, and even like, and it just shows like sometimes how little self-awareness the Cowboys might have, because they go for the onside kick after that. Okay, we got to try for a miracle here, and the Cowboys recover it, but they go and run it back to the house. I'm like, okay, I get it, pile on, make the lead a little longer, but we saw Jaden Daniels win on a Hail Mary once before. 14 seconds doesn't seem like the game's gonna end right away, so it's like, here's Dallas still like almost begging an opponent to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat.
Simple football, man. Basic football. Just secure the ball. You take your knees. You move on. You give America an extra couple minutes of football for no reason, because let's say they actually get the Hail Mary, then we're back to where we started, and who knows what happens. So, okay, you scored a touchdown, but you put your team in peril because you're the Dallas Cowboys, and we know how this all works for you. Just bad football all around. Just bad football.
Well, we are very good at discussing football, Bucks McGee. So this was a week 12, which some things went the way we thought, some things did, but not in the way we thought, and other things were just a complete surprise. So take us off air with your final thoughts for week 12.
Week 12. Week 12. Baker Bay doing what Baker does. Welcome back, Mike Evans. Oh, Giants fans, it's a rough one. Rough one for you guys. Feel bad. What else do we got here? Seahawks, right now, a class of the NFC West. Enjoy it. But hey, Jets fans, enjoy. You guys didn't lose this week.